Good morning, students. All of you, welcome to the class. In this class, we are going to discuss about general principles and processes of isolation of elements. Simply, it is called as metallurgy. Metallurgy means extraction of metals from the minerals or ores. So, first coming to the point, metals. Actually, we know about elements. The elements are classified into three types. One is non-metals, second one is metals, third one is metalloids. If you observe the periodic table, nearly 92 plus elements are the metals. So here we are going to discuss about extraction of metals. In the earth crust, the metals are occurring in free state as well as in the combined state. But most of the metals are occurring in the combined state. If you come to the examples, in the free state, silver, that is Ag, gold, Au, platinum, Pt. These are the metals that are occurring in the free state in the earth crust, whereas remaining all other metals are occurring in the combined state because metals are having electropositive character, they are reactive in nature. That's why most of the metals are occurring in the combined state. If you observe this periodic table, this is the first year group elements or first group elements. This group is indicating second year group elements or second group elements. These two groups are called as S block elements. S block elements are known as alkali and alkaline earth metals. So all these are highly reactive metals. Whereas if you come to this one, that is boron family, carbon family, nitrogen family, oxygen family, halogen family, and noble gases, in any group from top to bottom, the metallic character increases. So if you observe the bottommost elements of any group, they are the metals. Here thallium is a metal, here lead is a metal, here bismuth is a metal, here polonium is a metal. Of course, here polonium is a radioactive in nature, and the next one is astatine. This is more metallic in nature with compared to fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. So simply we can understand that in any group from top to bottom, the metallic character of the elements get increases because of a large atomic radius and low ionization energies. And all of you know these elements, the elements which are present between second group and 13th group. What are the elements? Third group, fourth group, fifth group, sixth group, seventh group, eighth group, ninth group, 10th group, 11th group, 12th group. These are called as D block elements. All these D block elements are the metals. And except of this second B group elements, zinc, cadmium, and mercury, remaining D block elements are called as transition elements or transition metals. And whereas if you observe these elements, these are the 4F series elements, these are the 5F series elements. The 4F series elements are called as lanthanides. 5F series elements are called as actinides. These two series elements are called as inner transition elements. These are also metals. So total, if you observe the periodic table, most of the elements are metallic in nature. And most of the metals are occurring in the combined state, but not in the free state. Here you have to remember one thing. What are the metals that are occurring in the free state in earth crust? That are silver, gold, and platinum. And these elements are also known as coinage elements. So remember this one. Yes, coming to the extraction of metals, the process of extraction of metals from the ores or minerals is called as metallurgy. In the metallurgy, we have to understand some terms. First one is about a mineral. Mineral means it is a compound of metal that occur in the nature along with rocky or other impurities, that is known as a mineral, and may or may not give profitable extraction. So if you observe any mineral of a particular metal, all the minerals of that particular metal may or may not be profitable to extract the metal. Later we can know about this one. And next, coming to the ore. Among the minerals, particular minerals are suitable for the extraction of metals with low cost, with low expense. Such minerals are called as ores. So the ores are commercially profitable for the extraction of metal Such minerals are called as ores. Then you can understand that the minerals, all the minerals are not going to be the ores, but all the ores are going to be the minerals. Next point is about the gangue. Gangue is nothing but the impurities present along with the mineral or ore is called as gangue. The gangue, the other term is matrix. And the matrix may contain adherent impurities like sand, soil, etc. If you come to the extraction of iron, iron is available in earth crust in different mineral forms. One is hematite, the formula Fe2O3, magnetite, the formula Fe3O4, limonite, the formula is 2 moles of Fe2O3 dot 3 moles of H2O, iron pyrite, formula is FeS2, siderite, the formula is FeCO3. So all these are the different forms of iron. But among these different forms of iron, we generally use hematite for the extraction of iron. So here hematite is considered as a ore. Whatever the mineral which is profitable for the extraction of metal, that mineral is called as ore. Take the screenshot of this one. Yes, coming to the definition of metallurgy, the process of extraction of a pure metal from its ore is called as metallurgy. If you observe this one, here you can observe this is the ore. During the extraction process, from the ore, we have to remove the impurities. Then only we will get the pure metal. So this total process is called as metallurgy. The extraction of pure metal from the ore by the removing of impurities is called as metallurgy. During the extraction of metal from any ore, several steps are there. The first step is the ore concentration. Ore concentration means removal of gangue particles or the removal of matrix from the ore is called as ore concentration. After concentrating the ore, the second step is a reduction of ore. After reduction of ore, it is the refining of ore. So total 3 steps are involved in the extraction of metals from the ores. Take the screenshot. Next, coming to the first step, concentration of ore. Already we discussed removal of gangue particles or ore dressing, or it is also called as beneficiation. Remember, ore dressing or beneficiation is nothing but concentration of ore. That is nothing but removal of adherent impurities from the ore. The impurities which are present along with the ore, they are called as gangue particles. So here several methods are there for ore concentration. The first method is hydraulic washing. Second one is froth flotation. Third one is electromagnetic separation. The fourth one is leaching process. Already in the classroom itself, everything is discussed. Here, I don't want to waste your time. Just I will send a PDF. You can go through that one. You can easily understand. And please go through the notes and please practice the MCQs from your notes, right? Just I'm scrolling down. Wherever you want, you can take the screenshots. Otherwise, I will send the PDF. And whereas coming to the second method of ore concentration, this is very important, froth flotation. Froth flotation is one of the ore concentration method that is used for the extraction of metals from the sulfide ores. That is used for the extraction of metals from the sulfide ores. Which metals are extracted? Copper, zinc, iron, lead. These metals are generally extracted from the sulfide ores. The process used for the removal of gangue particles is froth flotation. This bit is important. Please take an underline. Yes, regarding froth flotation process, once again go through your notes or textbook. Here is a process is given, froth flotation process. In the froth flotation process, we are going to extract copper metal or zinc metal or iron metal or lead metal, and we have to choose the suitable ore. For the extraction of copper through froth flotation method, we are taking copper glands. The formula is Cu2S. For the extraction of zinc metal, we are using zinc blend. The formula is ZnS. And for the extraction of iron, through Froth fluoridation method, we are using iron pyrite. And for the extraction of lead, we are using galena. The formula is PbS. Yes, this is very important, my dear students. Please take the screenshot. This one is most important, right? Yes, here the procedure is given regarding Froth fluoridation. Just go through the PDF. Coming to the main parameters of Froth fluoridation process. In the Froth fluoridation process, the key points are: one is the frothing agents, either pine oil or eucalyptus oil. These are used as frothing agents. When we add these, and by stirring that ore in these oils mixed with water, we'll get a suspension. At the top of the layer, we'll get the gangue particles, because the gangue particles are lightweight, whereas ore particles are being heavyweight, they comes down. So that is the use of using frothing agents or frothers, pine oil or eucalyptus oil. And the collectors, the example is potassium ethyl xanthate. Simply you can say that xanthates are used as collectors. What is the use of collectors means? They are going to enhance the non-wettability of the mineral. When the mineral is going to be non-wettable, that mineral is going to get separated from the gangue particle, getting settled down at the bottom of that Froth fluoridation chamber. And froth stabilizes. Whenever we are going to form the froth, after some time the froth is going to be disturbed or destroyed. We have to stabilize the froth. That's why we are going to use either aniline, that is C6H5NH2, or cresol. This is the cresol. Cresol is an example of phenol, because benzene ring directly attached with OH. This is an example of phenol. And coming to the next one, depressant. What is a depressant? When we are going to use a mixture of sulfide ores, then the depressants are required, either sodium cyanide or sodium carbonate. These are used as depressants. An example is when we are going to separate a mixture of lead sulfide and zinc sulfide, here we are going to use sodium cyanide. The sodium cyanide is used as a depressant for a mixture of galena and zinc blend. To this mixture, when I am adding the sodium cyanide, the galena is not going to react, but the zinc sulfide is going to react with the depressant, and the zinc sulfide is going to get present in the form of solution state, whereas the lead sulfide is not going to react with sodium cyanide, that is going to be precipitated. So for the separation of sulfide mixture, we use depressants. One of the example is sodium cyanide. Remaining everything is explained. Once go through the PDF. Next method of ore concentration is electromagnetic separation. Electromagnetic separation. Here we are using a drum. This drum is having rollers. The rollers are made up of magnetic material, and the rollers are connected with a belt that is a non-magnetic material. So whenever we are going to take the powdered ore, if the ore is going to contain impurity, if the impurity is non-magnetic material, that non-magnetic material impurity is going to thrown away from the drum, because the drum is magnetic. Then if the ore is the magnetic, then the ore particles are collected near the drum. So this is the electromagnetic separation method, or simply we can say that magnetic separation method. And the examples are given in the textbook. Once go through the examples. Here also the examples are given. Magnetic ores are wolframite, that contains tungsten. Next one is magnetite, that is containing etherine impurities. So to separate the etherine impurities means they are the non-magnetic. Then we use electromagnetic separation method. Next one is about leaching process. Leaching means washing a ore more number of times with suitable solvent, where in the solvent what is going to be soluble? metal is going to be more soluble than impurities. If any ore is taken, if the ore is containing impurities, the impurities are less soluble in solvent, the metal is going to be more soluble. Then simply we can separate ore from the gangue particles by using leaching process. Generally, leaching process is used for the extraction of aluminum and for the extraction of silver and gold. Next one is extraction of aluminum. Aluminum is existing in different mineral forms. One is alumina, Al2O3, diaspore, Al2O3.H2O, bauxite, Al2O3.2H2O, gibbsite, Al2O3.3H2O, cryolite. This is important. Cryolite. The formula is Na3Al F6. Actually, here you have to write the 6. Okay. So all these are the different minerals of aluminum. Take the screenshot. So generally, to extract aluminum, we use bauxite. The formula of bauxite is Al2O3.2H2O. Depending upon the presence of different gangue particles, the bauxite is classified into two types. One is red bauxite. Second one is white bauxite. Red bauxite contain iron as impurity, whereas white bauxite contain silica as impurity. Here the process is given. Red bauxite is concentrated by Bayer's process as well as Hall's process. White bauxite is purified or concentrated by Serpek's process. Here the Bayer's process is given. In the Bayer's process, the leaching agent is caustic soda. This is important. In Bayer's process, the leaching agent is caustic soda. And the impurity removed is ferric oxide, Fe2O3. Here, three steps are involved in the Bayer's process. The step one is the dissolution of mineral in the leaching agent. This is the leaching agent, and this is a mineral. The mineral is going to dissolve in the leaching agent, but not the impurities. The impurities are going to settle down, and the solution is going to contain a soluble complex, that is sodium tetrahydroxyaluminate. This impurity, what is the impurity here? If it is the red bauxite, iron oxide is the impurity. To remove this impurity, we are going to add some flux. Here the flux is silica. When gangue particle mixed with flux, that gives a composition that is called as slag. So the iron oxide that is acting as impurity is removed in the form of slag, FeSiO3. Here, what is the flux? SiO2 is the flux. SiO2 is an acidic oxide. So SiO2 is an example of acidic flux. In Bayes process, the second step is the neutralization process. Why? Because means in the first step we added sodium hydroxide as a leaching agent. Then the solution becomes more basic in nature. That's why we have to neutralize this one. To neutralize the formed solution, we are going to pass carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is acidic oxide. Then the solution is going to be neutral to give a precipitate, that is Al2O3 x moles of H2O. From this precipitate, if we are going to remove this water molecule, step 3 is calcination process. Calcination means removal of volatile impurities by heating in absence of air. Here Al2O3 x moles of H2O is there. This x moles of H2O is acting as volatile impurity. Then just by heating in absence of air, this volatile impurity is going to be removed. That process is called as calcination. So finally what we obtain? Al2O3, that is alumina. From this alumina, if we are able to remove this oxygen atom, then what we'll get? Aluminium. Removal of oxygen is called as reduction. So during the extraction of any metal, three steps are involved. First step is the ore concentration. Second step is the reduction of ore. The third step is the refining of metal, right? Here the next method is given, Serpek's process. Take the screenshot. Otherwise, check your NCERT textbook. Next, this is most important for your NEET and JEE. Leaching of gold and silver. The process called as McArthur Forest cyanide process. Here, for the leaching of gold or silver, we use either sodium cyanide or potassium cyanide. This bit is important for NEET and JEE. Either gold or silver is leached by sodium cyanide or potassium cyanide. Here is the reactions are given. Take the screenshot. It is purely based on NCERT. Already in the classroom itself, we explained and we revised. So here I'm not going to explain again to avoid the length of the video. Let's take the screenshot of this one. MacArthur Forest cyanide process. The leaching agent used is sodium cyanide. Here, the one thing we have to understand is zinc is acting as a reducing agent. See this one. Here, we are going to have a complex. That complex is going to be reduced with zinc. So during the reduction of this complex, the silver ions present in the complex, silver ion is a metal ion that is going to be exchanged with this metal. So this reaction is an example of exchange of metal with metal. Zinc is acting as reducing agent. This is important. And during the extraction of metals, already we discussed. First step is ore concentration. Second step is reduction of ore. The third step is refining of ore. And the next step is what is the next step? What is the next step? Refining of ore means nothing but refining of metal actually. Actually here they have to give, first step is the concentration of ore. Second step is the reduction of ore. After that, we will get a metal. The next step is the refining of metal. Actually here they have to give refining of metal. Okay. So coming to the reduction of ore. For the reduction of ore, generally we use different methods. First one is the smelting process. Second one is the calcination process. Third one is the smelting process. Sorry, first one is the roasting process. First one is the roasting process. Second one is the calcination process. Third one is the smelting process. Roasting process is used for the sulfide ores only. Calcination process is used for carbonates and hydroxide ores, whereas smelting process is used for the metal oxides. Take the screenshot. Next, coming to the roasting process. Generally, zinc sulfide is roasted. See this one, zinc sulfide. This is a concentrated ore. So after concentration of ore, we have to reduce the ore. So first of all, to reduce the ore, the sulfides are converted into their oxides. After conversion of sulfide into oxide, then we have to reduce. Here, self-reduction reactions is given. The copper is going to be extracted from copper pyrites. The copper pyrites is first concentrated by Froth flotation process because copper pyrites is a sulfide ore. So after concentrating the ore, first the copper pyrites containing copper sulfide is going to be oxidized to give copper oxide. That copper oxide is going to react with sulfur dioxide, then it will give copper. During this process, sulfur dioxide is going to be bubbled around the surface of the copper. Then the obtained copper is called as blister copper. So here this word is important. Blister copper that contains small amounts of sulfur dioxide gas as bubbles. Here you can see the diagram if it is given. Okay, it is not given here. Next, coming to the calcination process. Calcination process is used to remove the impurities which are volatile. For example, see this example, calcium carbonate. If it is heated in absence of air, it is a mineral or a ore. If it is heated in absence of air, this is the volatile impurity going to be removed. So the process of removal of volatile impurities by heating a mineral or ore in absence of air is called as calcination process. And the calcination process in general is carried in the reverberatory furnaces to remove the volatile impurities. Right? This is important one. Calcination is carried in reverberatory furnaces. Some of the examples for calcination reactions. See this one, this is a volatile impurity. This is a volatile impurity. Carbon dioxide is acting as volatile impurity. Water molecule is acting as volatile impurity. If either carbon dioxide or water molecules are removed during the heating of any ore or mineral in absence of air, then that process is called as calcination. And here you have to remember the names, metallurgical names. ZnCO3 is called as calamine. FeCO3 is known as siderite. CaCO3.MgCO3 is known as dolomite. And next, one more method, smelting process. Smelting process is used for the converting metal oxides into metal. See this one, zinc oxide is a metal oxide. Metal oxide is going to be converted into metal. Of course, it is a reduction process. What is the reduction process? The smelting is a reduction process. It is used for the conversion of metal oxides into metals. And the reducing agents used are carbon, that is coke, carbon monoxide, and aluminum. But regarding which reducing agent we have to use, we have to go through Ellingham diagrams. In the next, within 5 minutes, we'll discuss about Ellingham diagram. The Ellingham diagram is helpful in finding out of a reducing agent at suitable temperatures, right? So these are the reactions, examples of a smelting process. Conversion of metal oxides into metal is called as smelting process. The reducing agents used are coke, carbon monoxide, and aluminum. And in the smelting process, if you are going to use aluminum, the process is called as Goldsmith aluminothermit process. Here you can see chromium oxide is there. If we want to extract chromium, then I'm going to react this chromium oxide with aluminum. Aluminum is going to react with oxygen, removed as aluminum oxide. Then from this chromium oxide, we can extract chromium. Conversion of metal oxides to metals by using reducing agents, the reactions are called as smelting reactions. And whenever we are using aluminum as a smelting agent, the reaction is known as Goldsmith aluminothermic process. And coming to the refining of metals, when we are going to extract a crude metal, still that crude metal is going to contain impurities. So from the crude metal, we have to remove the impurities. That process is called as refining of metals. Some of the methods are there, refining of metals. One is liquefaction. Second one is the distillation. Third one is electrolytic refining. The fourth one is zone refining. Fifth one is vapor phase refining. And the sixth one is chromatography. All these are already discussed in the classroom. Just you have to remember the examples. Liquefaction method is used for the refining of tin metal, that is SN, lead metal PB, bismuth, that is Bi. And the process given here. I will send the PDF, just go through the PDF. Second method is refining method, distillation. Distillation method is used for the refining of zinc metal, mercury metal, and for cadmium metal. And the distillation method is used for metals having low boiling point. This is very important. And when we use, whenever, if the boiling points are going to get different, their boiling points less than 25 degrees Celsius or 25 units, then we go for fractional distillation. Regarding fractional distillation in the organic chemistry, already we discussed this. So many distillation methods are there: simple distillation, fractional distillation, distillation under reduced pressure, right? So go through the organic chemistry regarding distillation process. Just here you have to remember the thing is, distillation is one of the refining of metal that is used for refining of zinc metal, mercury metal, and cadmium metal. And this distillation method is used for metals having low boiling points. Yes, the distillation process already in the organic chemistry, we are explained all these things. Just go through organic chemistry. Next method of refining of metals is electrolytic refining. In the electrolytic refining, first of all, we are going to take the impure metal as anode and pure metal as cathode. See this one, left hand side is having anode. This is the impure copper. This is impure copper. This is a pure copper. Pure metals always taken as cathode. Impure metals always taken as anode. Anode is a positive electrode, cathode is a negative electrode. When these two are connected to an external battery and these two electrodes are dipped in their respective solutions due to electrolysis, that is due to anodic and cathodic reactions, the total metal whatever present at the impure metal, that is going to be deposited at the cathode. Generally, the electrolytic refining is used for the refining of copper metal and zinc metal. In this method, the impurities going to be deposited. Here you can see the impurities are going to be deposited here. What are the impurities deposited are? Antimony, selenium, tellurium, silver, gold, platinum. All these are going to be left as impurities at the bottom of the anode. This is called as anode mud. These are less reactive electropositive impurities, they are going to be collected near the bottom of the anode. They are called as anode mud. So simply you can remember anode mud is going to contain antimony, selenium, tellurium, silver, gold, platinum. All these are deposited at the bottom. Why? Because means they are less reactive, less electropositive. And the next method of refining of metals, zone refining. Here you can see we are taking an impure metal as a circulated rod. If it is going to be this is a rod, impure metal, right? If it is going to be heated by using a copper coil at the particular zone, this zone is going to be melted. Impurities are going to be moved one side, and the pure metal is going to be remain other side. Suppose see here the direction of travel of heater, molten zone and impurities. When we use this zone refining method for the refining of germanium, silicon, beryllium, gallium, and indium, we are going to use zone refining method. Next one about vapor phase refining. The vapor phase refining, two types of reactions are there. The first one is Mons process. Mons process is used for the purification of nickel metal. Van Arkel method is used for the purification of zinc and zirconium and titanium. Here the process given, Mons process. If you are going to take impure nickel metal, it is going to be heated with carbon monoxide at 350 kelvins. Suppose if it is considered as a low temperature, then it is going to give a volatile unstable complex. If this volatile unstable complex again going to be heated at higher temperature, the total impurity is going to be removed. Then we will get a highly purified metal. So Mons process is used for the refining of nickel metal. This is important. And next one is Van Arkel's method. Van Arkel's method is used for the refining of zirconium. Here also we are using iodine. When iodine is going to react with zirconium at low temperature, higher temperature, first it is going to give volatile unstable compound. At very higher temperatures, if it is again heated, then we will get the purest form of zirconium. Remember, Van Arkel method is used for the refining of zirconium metal. Next, coming to Ellingham diagram. What is the use of Ellingham diagram? Means to identify or to select the best reducing agent, we are going to consider this concept, that is Ellingham diagram, that is thermodynamic principles in metallurgy. Directly I am going to the diagram for your easy understanding. Just to see here, Ellingham diagram. In your NCERT textbook, the diagram is given very clearly. Just once go through that diagram, practice more MCQs on Ellingham diagram. That is most important for NEET and JEE, the Ellingham diagram. Yes, here you can see the Ellingham diagram. Just once observe this diagram. All of you carefully observe this diagram. On the x-axis and y-axis, what are the parameters given? On the x-axis, the parameter given is temperature of the formation of oxides. Once again, on the x-axis, what is given? Temperature of formation of oxides is given. On the y-axis, delta G naught of formation of oxides is given. See this one, formation of magnesium oxide, this line. This line is indicating formation of magnesium oxide. This line is indicating formation of aluminum oxide. Suppose if you take this crossing point or intersection point, before this point, if you observe before this point, if you observe these two lines, formation of magnesium oxide and formation of aluminum oxide, which is going to have high negative delta G naught value. High negative delta G naught value. Formation of magnesium oxide is having, here you can observe this value, high negative delta G naught value. So if any metal oxide is having high negative delta G naught value, that metal is acting as the good reducing agent. Otherwise, simply to understand very simply, if any curve or any line is obtained at the bottom of the y-axis, at the bottom of the y-axis, that metal is acting as a best reducing agent. Very simply you can understand. No need to remember all those concepts. So whatever the curve given here, at the bottom of the y-axis, at the lowest part of the y-axis, that metal is acting as a strong reducing agent, because this metal can be easily oxidized to give metal oxide. If any metal can be oxidized easily, means that metal is acting as a strong reducing agent. So among the magnesium and aluminum, below the temperature of 1473 kelvins, sorry, here you can see this temperature nearly about 1873 kelvins according to this graph, nearly about 1873 kelvins. Below 1873 kelvins, magnesium is acting as a best reducing agent than aluminum. But after this point, at higher temperatures, if you observe the graphs again, this graph is this line is indicating formation of magnesium oxide, and this line is indicating formation of aluminum oxide. At higher temperatures, delta G naught of formation of aluminum oxide is more negative, because here at this point you can see this value minus 700 kilojoules per mole, whereas at this point you can observe minus 500 kilojoules per mole. Minus 700 kilojoules per mole is the highest negative delta G naught value. Then we can say that at higher temperatures, aluminum is acting as the best reducing agent. At lower temperatures, magnesium is acting as the best reducing agent. But particularly at this temperature, nearly at 1873 kelvins temperature, according to this graph, aluminum can reduce magnesium oxide, magnesium can reduce aluminum oxide. That is all about reducing nature of metals depending upon the delta G naught values versus temperature of the reaction. Here we are going to use delta G naught, means a standard change in Gibbs energy of a reaction. This is a thermodynamic term. So thermodynamic principles are used in metallurgy to know about the best suitable reducing agents, right? Here if you observe zinc and carbon monoxide, formation of carbon dioxide, formation of carbon dioxide from carbon, and here formation of carbon monoxide from carbon. Among the carbon and carbon monoxide, can you guess which is going to act as a good reducing agent? See this graph, just carefully observe. Just carefully observe the eraser. Just observe this line. Formation of carbon monoxide from carbon. Okay. And again, formation of carbon monoxide. Formation of carbon dioxide I am going to take. See this line. 2 moles of carbon monoxide reacting with oxygen. See this line. So, which is going to have high negative delta G naught value? The formation of carbon monoxide is having high negative delta G naught value at higher temperatures. This is a higher temperature, nearly at 2000 degrees Celsius. At higher temperatures, the carbon which is going to be oxidized to give carbon monoxide is having high negative delta G naught value. Then we can say that at higher temperatures, carbon, that is the coke, is acting as the best reducing agent, whereas at lower temperatures, carbon monoxide is acting as the best reducing agent. This is very, very, very important point, right? So try to understand. If you get any difficulty in understanding, you can call me. We'll discuss in the phone or in the Zoom call. Yes, here by understanding the above concept, just by observing the delta G naught values, if any curve is having high negative delta G naught value, then that metal is acting as a good reducing agent. So among copper, iron, zinc, aluminum, and magnesium, can you guess which one is the best reducing agent? Yes, you have to text me. Those who are observing this video, you have to text me. Once again, my question: among copper metal, iron metal, zinc metal, aluminum metal, and magnesium metal, which can act as the best reducing agent? You have to text me your answer if you are watching this video. And this is a diagram, Ellingham diagram, given in your NCERT textbook. Just observe your textbook or observe this one. I'll send the PDF after completion of this class. My dear students, from metallurgy, mostly you have to focus on Ellingham diagram if you are preparing purely for JEE. Otherwise, if you are preparing for NEET, I think so, remaining concepts you have to focus more, right? Coming to the limitations of Ellingham diagram. The Ellingham diagram that says only about the feasibility of a reaction, but it does not says about the speed of reaction. Means the Ellingham diagram does not deals with the kinetics of reaction. And second thing is Ellingham diagram is purely based on equilibrium. So whenever the formation of oxides is going to be in equilibrium, for example, see this reaction. Suppose see this reaction here, 2 moles of magnesium reacting with oxygen to give 2 moles of magnesium oxide. Actually, the reaction is given in forward direction. But to understand the Ellinger diagram, the reaction must be considered as an equilibrium reaction. Then only this concept is applicable. So this is one of the limitation in Ellingham diagram. Yes, coming to the aluminum, already we discussed about aluminum ores. Just to take the screenshot once again. Next, bauxite. Already we discussed red bauxite and white bauxite. Red bauxite contain iron oxide as impurity. White bauxite contain silica as impurity. Red bauxite is purified or concentrated by Bayer's process or Hall's process, whereas white bauxite is concentrated by Serpek's process. Yes, all these things are repeated. I'm not going to revise again and again. Already we explained all these things. In the extraction of aluminum, we use one more method, that is Hall-Héroult process. In Hall-Héroult process, first we are taking the concentrated bauxite, that is Al2O3. This Al2O3 is going to be reduced to get a 99% purified form of aluminum. Here we are going to use electrolyte, that is Na3Al(F6) mixed with CaF2. This is mixed with alumina. Actually, alumina is a solid that should be taken in the molten form. And alumina is not going to contain any electrons or any ions. So that's why the pure alumina is bad conductor of electricity. To increase the electrical conductivity, we are using a mixture of Na3Al(F6) and CaF2. This is the main use of using this mixer. This mixer increases the electrical conductivity of alumina, then only the alumina is going to be reduced, going to be deposited at the cathode. Na3Al(F6) is called as cryolite, CaF2 is called as fluorspar. So that is all about metallurgy in brief. Just simply practice the MCQs given in your material. Mostly, I think you can solve the MCQs very easily. Every day you have to practice until your exam is going to be completed. Please have hope. Stay home, stay safe. Have a nice day. This is your chemistry lecturer, Sesdar Naidu, signing off.